All right. Well, let's just get. Okay. So welcome everyone. This is Cesar Trabanco at the Global Chamber. And this is our Global Chamber Caribbean Meetup, an event that we started 2 years ago with Joe Spalber, who's going to be co-moderating with me today. For those who are new to the Global Chamber, our events, we are a global organization based in the US, but with presence in countries around the world, helping businesses connect with opportunities. And in my case, I helping day-to-day members in all parts of the world, but I'm based from Puerto Rico, and this conversation today is a special interest for me. And without further ado, I would like to introduce Joe Spalber. He's a global advisor member for Brussels, Belgium in Global Chamber, but he has a really vast experience working with the Caribbean market, specifically with the tourism and telecommunication industry. Joe, welcome. Would you give us a couple of words and introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, Cesar. Hello, everyone. Good morning to those of you in the Americas. I'm calling you from Amsterdam today. I'm Dutch West Indian, and I've been working, as Cesar said, mostly in the hospitality industry for the Caribbean, in the Caribbean, also in telecommunications. Since I have a company specialized in distribution of content, promotion, and public relations, also for the Caribbean. Very pleased that we are able to present you Puerto Rico today. Puerto Rico for me has always been a special place, the star of the Caribbean, as they say, and I hope to hear from our key presenters what makes Puerto Rico shine. Because for a lot of people, especially at this side of the Atlantic, they don't really know what Puerto Rico entails. Is it part of the US? Is it part of Latin America? Is it part of the Caribbean? Yes, it's part of all of that, I guess. But Puerto Rico has something special to offer, especially when it comes to business and investments. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from our experts from Puerto Rico what we can offer business people, not only in Europe, but in the Caribbean and around the world.
That's right. Thank you, Joe. And yeah, we have put together a dream team of experts from Puerto Rico. And we're going to start with Karen Mojica, Director of Stakeholder Affairs at Invest Puerto Rico, an organization that really promotes and is bringing all the foreign investment to the island. So Karen, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Cesar. It's really my pleasure to be with you today. So Cesar is going to help me and work the presentation. So as Cesar said, I work as Director of Stakeholder Affairs at Invest Puerto Rico. Prior to this role, I worked as Director of Business Development, working hand in hand with companies who are interested in establishing new operations on the island. It's great to be with you today and share insights into our work at Invest Puerto Rico and the current landscape for new business, investment, entrepreneurship, and innovation on the island. I always like to start with a video from our campaign launched earlier this year, so I hope you like it.
You're not asking the right question. It's not what's next. It's where. Where startups and global players in bioscience, aerospace, tech, and energy coexist in a vast and vibrant ecosystem. Where talent runs deep, highly skilled, and bilingual. And the most competitive tax incentives in the US fast-track success. It's where people enjoy working and living, where hard work is rewarded with sunsets and turquoise waters. And the future burns bright in innovation's paradise. If you believe your business can go anywhere, this is the place to bring it. Puerto Rico. It's not what's next, it's where.
I hope that piques your interest. And what we mean by it's not what's next is where is we truly believe that Puerto Rico has the right elements to foster innovation and growth for companies that locate here on the island. So I want to tell you a little bit more about us at Invest Puerto Rico. We were created by law in 2017 to promote the island as a business and investment destination. We're a private, nonprofit corporation that works to attract new companies and capital investment to generate jobs and accelerate economic development. We don't charge for our services, which is great for clients and companies, and thus far we've helped attract commitments of close to 20,000 new jobs to the island and $1 billion in projected capital investment. Next slide. So as part of our efforts, what we do here at Invest, we provide the information that companies and leaders need to decide where to expand their operations. So we are your point of contact to provide data on industry sectors, to help companies identify real estate assets, to support your search for local talent. We connect companies and investors with local service providers as well, and facilitate connections in the public sector, the private sector, with trade associations, with existing companies, and you name it. We're basically like a one-stop shop to get acquainted with the ecosystem here in Puerto Rico. We also help investors connect with local projects seeking capital. So here on this slide, you'll see some of the tools that we have available for you, and you can leverage them. They're on our website, investpr.org. I invite you to visit the website. It hosts a wealth of information about the island's business opportunities. So here you'll see Impeller, for example, is a central platform where local projects that are looking to raise capital can list their offers and be seen by international investors. We also offer a directory of local service providers that you can find your attorneys, your accountants, you name it, whatever you need here on the island, you can find there. They've been vetted by Invest. We also have a workforce dashboard. Workforce is so important. Panoramica, which is the only AI-driven platform in the Caribbean that maps the I&E ecosystem. And a real estate platform is in the works to provide detailed information on available assets on the island. Next slide, please. So, and yes, thank you. When you think about Puerto Rico, you probably think tourism, right? Tourism, we have great beaches, great food, great weather, but actually tourism is only 7 or 8% of our GDP. Our economy is the most diversified in the Caribbean. It's a truly unique place. So manufacturing actually is the backbone of our economy, with about 46.3% of our GDP coming from manufacturing. And out of that, 85.8% comes from pharmaceuticals and medical devices, so very sophisticated manufacturing. 90% of the world's pacemakers made by Medtronic come from Puerto Rico, as do many of the contact lenses sold in Japan. I always say we have the world's heart in our hands. We also manufacture electrical equipment, food, beverages, basic chemicals, and other products. Knowledge services as well generate more than 34% of our economy. Next slide, please. I think we skipped one. There's one about the economic indicators. So I just wanted to mention that they're in the best place they have been for years. According to the Economic Development Bank of Puerto Rico and the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, economic growth has increased over the last 5 years, and the unemployment rate is the lowest in our history at around 5.7%. So knowing our competitive assets and where Puerto Rico really is positioned to win, to attract new companies and help them excel, there are several industries that you'll see here, these key sectors. For example, we have a 60-plus year legacy in the biosciences industry. To this day, the island is still the largest exporter of pharmaceutical drugs and medical devices in the entire United States. In fact, we produce more than the next 2 states combined. We're also seeing more gene and cell therapy companies, clinical trials, research and development companies, and more locate to the island. A very interesting development has been the growth of the aerospace sector, which in the last 10 years has gone from 600 jobs to more than 8,000 jobs, and actually contributes more than $500 million to the local economy through design and engineering services and light component manufacturing. Energy is also a sector of great opportunity in Puerto Rico, with an aggressive goal of becoming 100% renewable. The island welcomes companies with innovative technologies that can help this transformation. In the tech sector, Puerto Rico is emerging as a global model in cutting-edge tools to enable blockchain, AI, and the Internet of Things. These technologies transform industries like financial services, agriculture, biosciences, and aerospace. Regarding professional services, Puerto Rico's highly skilled bilingual workforce has supported the growth of companies ranging from financial planning to consulting services, call centers, and technical and administrative support services, among many others. Creative industries also have great and untapped opportunities in Puerto Rico, supported by tax incentives and a global vision. Additionally, we have our sights set on emerging sectors like the circular economy, with projects such as the transformation of waste and sargassum to create high value added products. We look forward to what that sector is going to contribute to our economy. Next slide, please. Oh, I guess we skipped this one. We already addressed it. Okay, next one. Thank you. So let's talk briefly about some of the elements that make our island an attractive destination for business and investment. And of course, our strategic location right there in the center of the Americas, in the heart of the Caribbean, positions us as the island, the gateway to the Americas, actually. So whether you're looking from North America to do business, South America, the Caribbean, or internationally, or if you're looking from Europe or just from Latin America, really positioned in a great spot as an ideal hub for international business. Next one. These are some of the companies, just to give you a flavor of the very robust ecosystem that we have on the island. I'm sure you'll recognize a lot of these names. A lot of international companies already doing business here very successfully, have been doing so for decades. Next slide. And then a little bit of what we've done since the creation of Invest Puerto Rico. We have helped attract over 3,000 new businesses with more than 24,000 jobs committed and close to $2 billion in capital investment. And we're, of course, looking forward to doing a lot more for the island. For tech innovators, there is a broad network of incubators, accelerators, shared workspaces, access to capital. And this is a recent development. This wasn't available on the island, let's say 10, 12 years ago. Really thrilled about this new sector and the growth potential for it. Next slide, please. So, of course, being part of the U.S., allowing companies to invest confidently under the same federal regulations and protections as on the mainland is a key component of our value proposition. Made in Puerto Rico is made in the USA, which is right now very vital in terms of the reshoring initiatives under the current administration. Our currency is the US dollar. Puerto Ricans are US citizens, and the visa requirements for travel are the same as on the mainland US. Next one. So right now, internationally, I would say talent is the #1 consideration for companies evaluating where to set up their operations. Our workforce is bilingual, highly skilled, competitive, and there is a much lower attrition rate or turnover rate than on the US mainland. So about 40% on the mainland, 8% attrition in Puerto Rico. Also, you'll see our geography. It's rather small island, 100 miles times 35 miles. We have over 80 universities and colleges. On the west side, the University of Puerto Rico at Mayagüez is among the top 20 science and engineering universities in the United States, and it graduates the highest number of Hispanic engineers. Next slide. Out of the 20,000 plus STEM degrees awarded every year on the island, close to 50% are in engineering, and I always like to highlight that out of those, 60% are female engineers. Puerto Rico wants to be among the top 10 U.S. jurisdictions for tech talent, and there are several initiatives to make this a reality. Among them, the Workforce Development Program at the Department of Economic Development and Commerce offers training and employment funds. And the 21st Century Tech Force Initiative will equip us with more than 50,000 skilled tech workers by the year 2035. Next slide, please. Another competitive factor is that our territory provides daily direct air connectivity to multiple cities in the United States and internationally, making it very convenient. We're also on the same time zone as the US East Coast. Next. With 3 international airports and 11 seaports, Puerto Rico is a global leader in logistics. Of course, we export pharmaceuticals, so we have to be. We serve as the largest air import system in the Caribbean. Products made in Puerto Rico are exported to more than 140 countries. And we're experts in logistics systems for high security transfer of controlled substances, cold storage, climate control management, and others. Next slide. Just to get a view of some of the logistics partners here on the island, I'm sure you recognize all these names. Next one. Infrastructure is another competitive element because we're seeing a pivotal moment in Puerto Rico's modern history where the disbursement of federal funds is driving infrastructure improvements and the transformation of our energy grid. Next slide. There are also projects underway improving our highways, our roads, and many other projects. Next slide. I know I'm going very quickly. I'm giving you a flavor of Puerto Rico. I'll be available for Q&A after, and of course, you can reach out to me after the webinar with any other questions you may have. So here, Puerto Rico has the most compelling tax incentives in the U.S., I dare say. Concerning the U.S., Puerto Rico is domestic for every purpose except taxation. So Puerto Rico corporations are treated as foreign corporations for U.S. income tax purposes. I mean, we don't vote for the president, so we don't pay federal taxes. This allows the local government to offer very impactful incentives to companies that choose to establish operations here on the island. In 2019, the Puerto Rico Tax Incentives Code, or Act 60, was enacted. This law brought together under one roof all of the previous industry-specific incentives. In a few minutes, attorney MARISEL Valentín will share details on some of the most sought-after incentives for businesses and individuals. But I wanted to highlight that except for retail sales, almost every commercial and industrial activity is incentivized in Puerto Rico. Next slide. These incentives are, 4 buckets, I say, and they include preferential tax rates, tax credits, cash grants, and workforce training incentives. And you could look at these as pieces of a puzzle that can be combined depending on the services that your company in Puerto Rico would render. Then you can, select or apply for all of the ones that would apply to you. Next slide. Puerto Ricans jokingly say that everyone on the island is connected. And this is especially beneficial for businesses. It's easier than in other places to access the right partnerships that will help your business or project grow. So whether you want to connect with the public sector, service providers, private sector, industry associations, you name it, we can help you get in touch. And this also ties to the quality of life in Puerto Rico. This openness and warmth of our people translate to better business relations and the potential to collaborate more easily than in other locations. And I know that I'm running out of time, so just for the next slide, again, it's just highlighting the tech thriving ecosystem on the island. A lot of people eager to collaborate and drive projects forward. And last slide, of course, who can resist living and working in a tropical paradise? So next slide, just for you to see our website. That's my email address is not there, but I'll write it on the chat. And if you scan that QR code, that'll take you right to our website as well, but it's investpr.org. So I hope you've gained more interest in Puerto Rico after listening to this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen, and thank you, because I know there's a lot of information condensed in 10 minutes, so that was really well done. That's actually one of my favorite scenic drive in Puerto Rico, so that nice picture. I forgot to mention that we'll have some Q&As at the end, but I invite everyone here in the chat to put the questions or comments so the speakers can interact with you during the presentations. Let's move now to MARISEL Valentín, a member of the Global Chamber and founder and partner of the Valerm Law Group. MARISEL, welcome.
Hi, Cesar. I'm just gonna share the screen. I love Karen's introduction. Now that Karen and Invest Puerto Rico has convinced you that Puerto Rico is your perfect location to do business in the Caribbean, I'm just going to talk about the nitty-gritty, the corporate and business tax aspects of doing business in Puerto Rico. So let me share my screen. Okay, do you see from the beginning? Okay, so here's my presentation. Okay, this is my contact information. There's my email. Puerto Rico, basically what Karen just so eloquently talked about: workforce, location, logistics. In Puerto Rico, so now you're convinced and you're saying, hey, I want to do business in Puerto Rico. What are my options? So basically, Puerto Rico for corporations is modeled by the US standards. So Sociedad Anónimas and those type of entities don't mesh here with our business standards. So if you come to Puerto Rico, either you will form a C corporation, which is a regular corporation, or a limited liability company under the Puerto Rico General Corporations Act. These are the characteristics. they have separate, they are a separate legal entity, and most importantly, they have limited liability to their owners. Some questions that I have encountered from foreign business trying to do business in Puerto Rico. Yes, in Puerto Rico, foreign persons or foreign entities can be shareholders of a Puerto Rico corporation or LLC. There is no actual minimal capital requirement for the organization of a Puerto Rico corporation or LLC. One thing, all corporations and LLC must have a designated principal office and a resident agent in Puerto Rico. So those are key considerations when you're trying to do a soft landing in Puerto Rico. And a key point, which was a third, that foreign corporations, if you want to establish your corporation in a foreign corporation in Puerto Rico, can register in Puerto Rico to do business. So that's another option to either start a new corporation or LLC, or just come in as a branch. So now that you have an understanding of what type of alternatives you might have to organize your business, these are your tax considerations. What happens if I don't come under the tax incentives? Our tax rate, you will have just the regular tax code, Puerto Rico tax code apply. So our tax rate is 37.5. And if you do organize a corporation and has either losses or no income, there's a minimum $500 tax. If you come through a foreign corporation authorized to do business in Puerto Rico, which is a branch, there will be a branch profit tax or a deemed dividend tax. That is, your income from the current year's operations will be repatriated at a 10%. Although there's a corporate taxation of 37.5, both corporations and LLCs can elect, and it's an election that you file with our Puerto Rico Department of Treasury, to either be taxed as a flow-through entity or a disregarded entity. That means that you won't pay tax, but the shareholders will pay tax in Puerto Rico. If you're a corporate shareholder, your tax will be the corporate Puerto Rico tax, which is 37.5. And if your international shareholders are individuals, they will be taxed at 33. So before you come in Puerto Rico, definitely, and you don't come under any of the acts, it's definitely worth just looking into what structure you're going to do in Puerto Rico, who are your shareholders, and how you will be taxed. For corporations, either flow through or no flow through, if you do services, if your income is from services, there's a special tax that you can elect to be taxed as that is on gross sales, and it goes from 6% to 20%. So that's another option that you can be taxed at. There's other local taxes. We do have sales tax. We don't have value-added tax. We do have sales tax, such as in the US, which is 11.5, and for services is 4%. There's a municipal license tax, which is municipalities charge you a 0.5% tax on gross sales. There's real and property taxes. Businesses pay tax on property that has been frozen for 5 years, but there's an yearly annual fee with the Department of State to keep your LLC or corporation alive of $150. Labor, as Karen said, that's another key issue that foreign businesses have to understand. Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory, so both U.S. and local labor laws apply. Puerto Rico is not an employment at will as in the U.S. Employers have to have just cause to fire employees. The minimum wage, we follow the federal. However, by local legislation is higher, 10.25, I think, or 10.50. Working hours, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. Overtime is 1.5%. employment of foreign nationals. This is key. U.S. visa requirements apply, and Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens. But if you want to set up your operations and bring your manager from another jurisdiction, you will have to do all the visa requirements to bring a foreign employee into the U.S. So it will be, you have to consider that. Okay, so employee-related taxes. As a U.S. jurisdiction, we pay federal unemployment, which is Social Security. It is divided between half is employee paid and half employee withheld, and the other half is the employer pays it. The Puerto Rican employment tax is the employer pays on the first 7,000. CNOD, which is a tax on the first $9,000, but those are minimal. Workman's compensation. In Puerto Rico, every employer has to register with the state insurance fund. With workman's compensation is by the government. It's not private. Okay, and now those are regular corporations, but what Karen says, and I agree, is most activities are covered under the Puerto Rico Incentives Code. So basically, the Puerto Rico Incentives Code provides incentivize not types of taxpayers, but activities. That is very important. It incentivizes certain individuals, which are bona fide resident investors. It incentivizes export services, which is coming to Puerto Rico and providing services from Puerto Rico to clients outside Puerto Rico. Manufacturing, being key suppliers to manufacturing. Trading companies is it's a good one, because trading companies is 80% of your income from the sale and distribution to markets outside Puerto Rico. Tourism, definitely, if you come to Puerto Rico and do a hotel, bed and breakfast, condo hotel, you will be incentivized. Finance, and Braulio can talk about finance, because in finance, incentivized activities include international financial entities, private equity funds, which he knows a lot about that, because part of his functions, he's engaged in private equity and international insurance. Agro-industry, creative industries, film, many films, Puerto Rico is selected as their location because of the incentives, and infrastructure and green energy. The exemption period is 15 years with a possible extension of 15 years. So 30 years is a lot. So it's not that you will have your business or operations disrupted. What are the general tax incentives? Is 4% on income. So remember, I talked about the 37.5. If you come under the tax incentives code, is 4%. Remember that I talked there was a municipal license tax and real property tax. If you come under the incentives codes, those taxes, you get a 50% tax exemption on the municipal license tax and a 75% on real property taxes. Dividends. So if you come on the act, when you declare dividends, you will get a 0% tax in Puerto Rico on those dividends. If your business is a PYME, which is defined as a business with $3 million or less of gross income, those benefits increase to 100% on the first 5 years. So it's very important. There are additional tax incentives which do not benefit all the sector. For example, let's see. The 100% excise and use tax for tourism companies. The 100% tax exemption on municipal and construction excise taxes. two activities that have that additional incentive is tourism and manufacturing. So think always about the general, and for your specific activity, there might be additional tax incentives. So you have to not only think about the general, but also about the additional. And the tax credits. The tax credits, for example, for tourism projects, if you construct a hotel, there's either a 30 or a 40% of the total project cost. So basically, you will be monetizing 30% of or 40% of your total project cost. So that will reduce either the financing or the amount of cash that you will have to pay. There's a 40% of field production tax credits. There's a tax credit on the purchase of manufactured products, and there's a 50% research and development credit. Not all business sectors are benefited by the tax credits, and it's subject to a return on investment analysis on PRIPCO. So they can determine the amount. For individual resident investors, those are businesses. So for individual investors in Puerto Rico, if you have not lived in Puerto Rico 6 years prior to January 17, 2012, you can come to Puerto Rico as a bona fide resident investor. Who would be the perfect fit? Those people who have large interests, who generate their income through passive income, interest, dividends, and capital gains. They have to do a $10,000 yearly donation to a charity in Puerto Rico. They have to acquire a house in Puerto Rico, and there's a $5,000 yearly filing fee. What are the benefits? And that's why it's so attractive. 100% tax exemption on dividends and interest, and 100% tax exemption on capital gains that you generate after relocating to Puerto Rico. Prior relocation to capital gains, which you have to do an analysis prior to moving to Puerto Rico, will be taxed at the regular 15% or 24% and 5% after 10 years. But those two 100% exceptions is what brings investors to Puerto Rico. So I will be here also for the Q&A. I know this is a lot of information. The presentation will be shared with you so you can go over, and it has my information. So after you review, you have any questions, you just can contact me.
Thank you very much, Marisel. Moving forward to a fellow lawyer and also member of the Global Chamber, I would like to welcome Jaime Rivera-Emmanuelli from Saiber Law. They're based in New Jersey, but Jaime is in Puerto Rico and is covering Latin America for them. So it's a little bit of an example of how businesses in the service industry are using Puerto Rico. Jaime, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Cesar. Thank you for the invitation. Also, Global Chamber and Joe for being the co-moderator. Marisel, Karen, great presentations. I'm not having a presentation. I'm, like Cesar mentioned, I'm just going over like kind of examples of what can you do in Puerto Rico and how you can take advantage of those tax incentives, and also the other factors such as the strategic position, the political certainty of being operating or running business in U.S. territory. So you have that protection. But before getting deeper into that, I would like to mention a few things about myself. I'm an attorney for 13 years, like Cesar mentioned. I have been both in the private and public sector. I have been at Saiber for over a year, almost a year and a half now. We are a full service firm, like Cesar said. We are based, our headquarters are in New Jersey, but we also have offices in New York, in Pennsylvania, and now in San Juan. We have been a law firm for 75 years now, and we are over 50 attorneys, which practices that include corporate law, business litigation, M&As, intellectual property, real estate, and gaming law, among others. I'm going to emphasize on gaming law because that's my main legal practice now, although I can do government relations, I can do litigation, I can do corporate, and also a little bit of real estate. So Karen emphasized, and also Marisel, on the advantages of Puerto Rico, right? You got, like I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, the legal protection of the United States. That means that you are protected by federal courts, state level courts, and basically, although we are a territory and not a US state, in terms of business, we mostly manage ourselves as, except for the tax, obviously, on the tax aspect of it, but besides of that, we got a state level courts, we got federal court levels, and basically we have the same legal framework as of the 50 states on the mainland. So that leads up to me to the strategic advantages. But before getting into that, I would like to explain real quick the gaming legal framework of Puerto Rico. Basically, we function as another state. We have land-based casinos, which have to be within a hotel facilities. So the casino aspect of the gaming industry of Puerto Rico supports and helps tourism. So it's a tool for tourism and economic development. Also, we have online bets such as sports betting. We are among the 30+ jurisdictions in our nation that offers sports betting. So having said that quick preview, in order to operate in the gaming industry, you have to comply with the state local laws and regulations regarding gaming, but also you have to comply with some federal laws and regulations that apply not only to the gaming industry, but to other industries as well. Having said that, if you are a corporation, business that are from outside of the United States, and I'm going to focus on the example of Latin America, and you feel a little bit intimidated about the language barriers and all the regulatory framework of the United States, you can try Puerto Rico at first. Why? Because you have to comply with the federal and local regulations that maybe can intimidate you, but also you are going to be able to comply with those regulations with a mainly Hispanic population. And we have, obviously, as Latino, cultural similarities. So that leads me to my other point, which is we are a natural bridge between the US and Latin market and vice versa. Because, like I was saying, if you are from Latin America, and if you're looking to that, you get into Puerto Rico, you have to comply with federal and state level regulations, and it gets you ready, and it gets you accustomed to the cultural and how do you work in a regulatory and compliance matter in an environment that is basically the same as any other states. Obviously, every jurisdiction in the United States has their differences because every jurisdiction has the capacity or the power of approving their own regulations. But you can enter Puerto Rico, you can comply with all the regulations, and there you're going to be in a better position to try to expand to mainland state or market, specifically East Coast, West Coast, whatever. And also on the other side, you can have, if you're a business from the United States and you're trying to expand your business to Latin America, one of the main concerns that you would have is that the legal certainty. Puerto Rico provides that. So you're gonna operate under a scenario that you're familiar, that you're comfortable with, and you're gonna have the opportunity of like proving your product with a Hispanic population and can give you the opportunity of test your product and make the adjustments so that if you had a previous product that was only to a certain group, you can expand it and you can taste your product with a mainly Hispanic population. In terms of the opportunities, like I mentioned, Karen mentioned about the technology sector. I'm going to focus on that, and also the service sector. Within the gaming industry, I'm getting now to my point. You have, in order to enter to the market, you have to comply, like I mentioned, with the state level regulations, with the federal level regulations, but there's often possibilities and business opportunities for technology businesses, customer services, and another services that are not necessarily directly engaged with gaming, but provide some necessary services to that gaming operator to conduct their business. So having said that, if you're looking forward to Puerto Rico as a possibility of entering, you feel free. You're gonna have legal certainty, you're gonna have infrastructure, you will have like a jurisdiction. There is a US territory, but also in cultural terms, we are diverse because we are mainly Hispanic population. I don't know, guys, if you have any question, I'm gonna share my contact info in the chat. So if you want to, you can feel free to reach out by my phone number or my email.
Thank you very much, Jaime. That was really good examples of how the technology companies can benefit in coming to the island. Now moving to our last speaker, Braulio Nieves from Pariter Wealth Management, and who is part of the local national Puerto Rico Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Braulio. It's great to have you here, and
Hi guys.
I heard from you following
Last but not least.
Last but not least, definitely.
The best for last, always. Okay.
Always. So thank you, Braulio.
Thank you guys for having me, Cesar. And well, I know Marisel and Karen for a long time now. We are on an unofficial team when it comes to promote Puerto Rico, and I'm very happy to be here and chime in with my experience, right? Because, and like was mentioned to you, Cesar, you put a nice panel together, because what I'm trying to do is to glue them together as an experience that we're seeing right now in different industries, particularly in the one that I mostly work with, which are financial services and insurance and private equity. Just a brief intro. I've been doing financial services for 25 years now. Started with John Hancock. They used to have a satellite office in Puerto Rico back in 2000. And then in 2007, we decided to put our own shop, which is part of the Wealth Management Group, which is a registered investment advisor firm out of Guaynabo. And we do all comprehensive financial planning, tax planning, qualified plans, tax credits, which I'm going to briefly cover. And we also have a local private equity fund under the incentives code that, as Marcel was mentioned, that has key features and very attractive incentives for investments. And I'm also a part of the board of director for the Puerto Rico Chamber of Commerce, which is the oldest business association in Puerto Rico. So I'm really active in the business landscape here. And from my experience, what I've seen with these incentives and the people and companies that have moved to Puerto Rico from different sizes, either two companies with hundreds of employees, is exciting, right? I always try to see the glass half full instead of half empty. And as Karen covered, we have a long way to go when it comes to the recovery efforts for infrastructure. We still have issues with the power, but even with that, when you remove that noise and you actually see that the companies that have been established here for decades, like Karen mentioned, and they're still here and they're expanding, that tells you something, right? They don't fear that, let's say, the thing with the power, which is one of the biggest concerns that a business might have when it comes to established operations in anywhere in the world. I might say, and it's because the skill set of the Puerto Rican people, employees, going back to the reshoring, the onshoring efforts that Karen was mentioned, Puerto Rico is perfectly placed for that, for these existing companies to expand their operations, or other to consider move them, because if tax is no longer that attractive abroad, then Puerto Rico it should be the place to be, especially in manufacturing and bioscience, like Karen was mentioned. Now, on my service, financial services, what I do, what I've seen is an exponential growth of firms coming to Puerto Rico, lawyers, advisors like me, money managers, crypto people as well, because of those incentives that Marisel and Karen explained very well. I mean, this is the same type of structure because these financial services, as you know, they service their clients outside of Puerto Rico. So imagine paying in the US, I don't know, 30+%. And with the same client, you don't have to even get more clients, you're going to pay 4%. And if you move individually, these owners of this firm, which most of them have, then it's Puerto Rico source income, so that their personal tax is very attractive. But what I've seen happening as well is that once they're here, they start hiring, and they start hiring attorneys and compliance officers and very skillful people, and paying very well paid jobs. And those people get to stay in the island, and they diversify the portfolio. On the private equity side, which is under Act 60 in Puerto Rico, I think there's probably 10 funds now formed. Other from the US are coming to establish the operations here, again, because they got export that counts as export of services. They do deals in the US, but they're running from Puerto Rico. And you need to hire lawyers, you need to hire accountants, you need to hire, and they hire locally. I can tell you that I can vet that's happened. And also different money managers from the crypto side has established themselves here. And once they have a few years here, they start looking for opportunities in businesses here. And that's what I see locals, the ones that are here to network with these people and kind of partner up for business opportunities, because in my opinion, Puerto Rico needs that type of capacity. Reason being that Puerto Rico, just to put in perspective, used to have, I don't know, 17, 20 banks 10, 15 years ago. Now it's down to 3. So obviously the banking system is shrinking, right? It's small. And we need different other type of alternative capital, alternative financing that is mostly coming from private equity funds, credit funds, local credit funds, and also others that are seeing those opportunities to bring that type of financing to the US. And all those things are critical, right, to the business ecosystem in the island. The international banking entities, international insurance, which again are under the incentives, and they service non-US citizens, is huge in Puerto Rico. Billions of dollars are moved here through this institution. And again, some of these companies started hiring 6 people, now they're to 100 people plus in Puerto Rico, well paid and running their operations from here. And I think that has led to the booming that we see on the residential side of real estate of things, because as part of the requirements under Act 60 for individuals, you have to purchase a property, a residence. So obviously there's a lot of demand on that front. But I think all I see is as positive thing. I wish I could see more big funds or big family offices moving to Puerto Rico, again, because that's an additional source of capital that could be used for Puerto Rico projects or projects abroad, and we're well positioned to service them and to as an advisor, and accounting firms in Puerto Rico, lawyers like myself are ready to help them. I want to mention something real quick on the hospitality side, which Marisel knows better than me, but I mean that part of the credits, because one thing is the incentives on a tax perspective, and the other one is the credit. So you combine it because they're not mutually exclusive. So imagine if you go do a real estate project in hospitality in Miami, you don't get you don't get that 40% tax credit. It's huge because you can monetize that right away. Or when you do your pro forma, you're gonna mention that to possible investors of a way to pay them back. So that's very important for the audience to understand that if you're looking to diversify and you're in hospitality is your industry, not looking no other than Puerto Rico, and also the fact that Puerto Rico has only, correct me if I'm wrong, Marisel, 8,000 or 9,000 key rooms, and the year has 16. We need to increase the capacity in hospitality. That's why in Puerto Rico, Airbnb has more than 18,000 Airbnbs to fulfill that. So when you combine the demand for hospitality, right, for people, places to stay, and you combine it from the financial perspective with incentives and the credits, it's a compelling story. And how I get involved in that? Because those tax credits are sold to Puerto Rico entities that buy those credits in order to fulfill their fiscal responsibility. And they do it through people like me, with advisors that put them together. Puerto Rico's market is probably around 350 or 400 million a year in tax credits that come from different sources, like Marisel mentioned, from the hospitality, from pharmaceuticals, from creative industries. All those credits are sold. As a matter of fact, I closed a $3 million transaction yesterday of tax credits for clients of mine that needs them. So it's a very, I think, efficient way to, and not only that, but there's some certain projects in Puerto Rico that qualify for low-income tax housing, so and renewables are federal tax that can be monetized as well. So again, all those benefits are here, and like Emanuele was mentioned, all under a U.S.-based fiscal and banking system that regulates us as being part of the United States. So if you're a non-U.S., whether for Latin America or Europe or any other country, and I agree 100%, is the perfect gateway to start a business here, in order for you to eventually expand to the U.S., but you can, understand the process better first in a Latin culture, but with that legal and banking system and compliance behind you. And it also happens that in my industry, we are FINRA regulated and SEC regulated, just like in the U.S. We're registered in 7 states. We're working right now with a possible transaction to bring advisors from the U.S. and the big book of business to Puerto Rico, again, to maximize those tax incentives that I just mentioned. So we're very positive of what is about to come. And with that, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Braulio. Very good points. I will still have, we're gonna have around 10 minutes for Q&As, and we can go a little bit over if it's necessary. But I would like to pass it over to Joe Spalver, who is the one who has been working with the entire region and has the mindset of an outsider in this case. And so, Joe, what questions or comments do you have?
Well, first of all, I would like to commend our presenters. I think we got a whole lot of information from them, which is so key and important. Too much to take in half an hour or an hour, actually. So it's good that all of you have shared your contact details in the chat. So anyone who's interested to do business in Puerto Rico, invest in Puerto Rico, will be able to follow up with you individually. For me, it's clear that Puerto Rico has a leading role as a hub in the Caribbean. Doing business from outside the region into the U.S., from Europe, from Latin America, from other Caribbean countries, but also vice versa. Now, I'm not quite sure, and maybe we can give a brief summary of Karen, mostly, I think, the tax incentives and the credits that will be available for all businesses, or are there any one that are specific for U.S. businesses? What I was also interested to hear is from Marisel is that that you can actually create a company without being in Puerto Rico, but will you then be liable for paying taxes through the IRS? I think those are the kind of questions that may be of interest to foreign, quote, non-U.S. business people.
So I'll answer briefly, but I think Marisel can jump in and provide more context. Any company from anywhere in the world, as long as they register an operation here in Puerto Rico in the Department of State of Puerto Rico, and you do that electronically, like virtually in the Department of State, and you pay a filing fee, you register, as long as you're doing services from Puerto Rico and those services are eligible under the 300 plus pages of incentives in Act 60, you can benefit from the 4% corporate tax rate and a lot of other incentives. And that includes chapters for manufacturing, for research and development, for hospitality, for green energy, for infrastructure, for financial services, export services, logistics, back office, central management services, shared office. I mean, there is a wide array. Practically, I would dare say retail is the only thing that is not incentivized. Pretty much everything else, you can apply for a tax exemption decree, which is a contract with the government of Puerto Rico. It's protected by the Constitution, and as long as you comply with your end of the bargain and whatever services you commit to providing, those are the ones that are going to receive the preferential tax rates. Then you're set. You're covered for 15 years, and you can renegotiate that for an additional 15. And then Marisel, pass it on to you for the second part of the question.
Oh, perfect. Basically, as Karen said, I think retail and construction. I have a lot of foreign companies coming for the reconstruction of Puerto Rico. That's like not incentivized, but most of the activities are incentivized. And think big about the big investors, but think small. If you are an independent contractor in your country and you move to Puerto Rico and you provide services to your clients that are outside of Puerto Rico, you can apply as an individual also and pay the 4%. So think the biggest of the big pharma, but also independent contractors. About your question, in a nutshell, foreign companies, if foreign companies with foreign shareholders, if they remain to be taxed as a foreign corporation, the foreign shareholders won't be subject to tax in Puerto Rico because when they distribute out dividends, it will be subject to a withholding. If they elect to be taxed as a flow-through entity, then yes, those individuals will be taxed. Why would you prefer one or the other? It will depend on your shareholder structure. So, but it will depend if you're continue to be taxed as a C Corp or as a flow-through, but that's part of the analysis that you have to do when you move to Puerto Rico. Who are your shareholders?
Okay, great. And could someone tell me a little bit more about why Puerto Rico would be such a great option for nearshoring or reshoring?
Oh, certainly. I mean, Puerto Rico is US, so made in Puerto Rico is made in the USA. Sad to say, but salaries here are lower than on the mainland. So for a company and employers, that is a plus. You're going to pay about 30% less than on the mainland for highly skilled, qualified, bilingual, bicultural talent. Of course, the more specialized the role, the more similar the pay grade is to that on the mainland. But we are a natural fit and solution for reshoring, especially if you're doing manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, aerospace. From here, you can contract with the Department of Defense because you're in U.S. territory. It's just the whole package. It's a lower cost for the company. The logistics, again, super like clockwork. Anything I'm missing, I think it's just a natural fit. We've actually been promoting Puerto Rico as the reshoring or onshoring solution forever. Now it's like a political topic, right? It's really important now, and there is a spotlight on it. But we've been promoting Puerto Rico as an ideal place to do business in the U.S., especially for international companies and Latin American companies.
And bilingual, as Jaime pointed out, as Attorney Emmanuelli pointed out, we're bilingual. So we focus on the US, but as also Karen mentioned, we are the gateway. So if you put your operations in Puerto Rico, a European company, you will have the US main, but you will have bilingual employees, and you can base with the tax incentives your operations in Latin America with the certainty, as Attorney Emmanuelli mentioned, of all the U.S. ports that no issue will have on government. So Puerto Rico offers stability, bilingual tax incentives, and the beaches that the
yeah, and with the other hot topic of the tariffs, Puerto Rico is U.S., so there's no tariffs between U.S. and Puerto Rico, of course.
Yes, of course. That's very important.
Yeah.
Very important these days. Great. Thank you both.
Thank you, Joe. Any question from the audience? I would like to open up now just in case anyone wants or have a comment on the topic that we covered.
Maybe you have one yourself, Caesar.
Yeah, no, I have an interesting one actually. I would like to get from the four speakers, what is the main challenge that Puerto Rico has right now, like when it comes to international? Because I mean, being Puerto Rican, I know, I truly believe, and I know the benefits of the island, and this is something that in my, personally, I talk to people like, hey, you should definitely consider Puerto Rico because there's just too many options. But what in your opinion, what are the challenges that the island has, and how we can improve that?
I have very specific. For example, for hotels, definitely if you're going to construct a hotel, hurricanes, that's a question that many of my construction person have. But I'm saying I'm a tax lawyer. I can control your tax. I cannot control the weather, but that's a big one. For constructions or developers, our weather. Energy is another one. The cost of our energy, that's something that we have in the forefront when we go to talk about, and that's part of the reconstruction process. So we are not oblivious to it. It's right in the forefront of the government, private investors. So definitely that's something that is going to be addressed in the near future. And to me, the third one, I had a third one. So salaries. So we are under the US, even though it's lower than the US. For example, many European companies, when they think Latin America, they think about the salaries of Colombia, Nicaragua, Ecuador. No, Puerto Rico is under US, the federal regulations. So we don't compete with those type of like, for example, our manufacturing is more elaborate. We are not like a cheap volume, produce something. That's not Puerto Rico. That's why we have strong pharmaceutical, biomedical. It's more like an elaborate, but yes, we're cheaper in labor than the US, but if you compare us to Latin American countries, they do think that our labor is expensive. So those are my three.
I would say, I would add to that, lack of awareness, Cesar. Lack of awareness. I mean, our job is to promote the island internationally, and the main challenge is no one knows about Puerto Rico's value proposition. You know, it hasn't been a constant effort to promote the island. We have so much work to do there. And you know how it goes. When there is one negative story, it kind of obliterates every positive thing that is happening. So we get a lot of negative coverage when there is one issue or one hurricane or whatever, but no one's talking about how we've turned that page 8 years ago. Everything here is thriving, booming. We're super optimistic. You know, we have challenges just like every other location in the world. As part of our work, we travel a lot. So I get to compare different jurisdictions, and I come back and I'm always so grateful that I live here and that I get to promote this beautiful island. So I hope that, you know, you guys are curious as well and look past that negative coverage that sometimes just permeates media. But lack of awareness, I would say, is my top challenge.
Interesting.
I would say that my challenge, you know, I agree with Marisel and Karen, but I would add to that, I think that government regulations, excessive government procedures or steps, and the current governor is taking the steps in order to reform that. But I think that one of the main issues, besides energy, the cost of doing business and the lack of awareness, is all those processes that our government can change and can make sure that we comply with what the law says, but also we facilitate the businessmen and the new business that is coming to Puerto Rico. Maybe I can say that because I have been in the public sector as well, but I would add, I think that the government excessive regulation and the procedures would be one of my main concerns. But obviously my main concern, I think, that is energy and the cost of doing business.
Thank you, Jaime. Braulio, what do you think? And you're muted, Braulio, just in case.
They pretty much cover everything. I think that for the purpose of this webinar, right? I think I agree 100% with Karen. It's the lack of awareness. I always joke with her that I'm work officially for Invest, and you know, every time I need something, I text her, hey, send me the PDF on energy, send me the PDF on aerospace, because every time I travel, every time I go places or meet people here, they need to know. And sometimes some people will come on a personal level to Puerto Rico on the Act 60, but then they realize that there's more to it, right? The opportunities for their businesses to establish new businesses here, but they need to know more. So that lack of awareness is paramount, not only for the people or the companies that are coming to Puerto Rico, but even existing local business owners that are unaware of that most of these incentives, 99% of the incentives apply to them. So I that's one of the things that I do in the Chamber of Commerce and other associations that I'm involved with, spreading the word of these incentives as well. But for the benefit of the audience, I think that lack of awareness, like Karen was saying, understanding, because you'd be surprised the confusion, let's say, about Latin America. They don't know if we are like Latin or part of the US, or sometimes it's confusing to them, but definitely, and Marisel and I have been working some initiatives to promote that, because there's certainly a lot of opportunities there for Latam and Puerto Rico, to expand those. But I would say lack of awareness, because the other thing about permits and power, that's something that is not necessarily under our control, right? But I think that I've seen the benefit, I've seen the growth in Puerto Rico when it comes to all these individuals and companies moving to Puerto Rico, especially the last 5 years, and I believe that is going to continue. So the future is bright in that sense, alongside government permits, the power that has to continue to perform better as well. But I mean, I see a lot of activity here, and I'm very well, we're very well positioned to benefit from.
Thank you, Braulio. No, I really appreciate everyone's input here. We went a little bit over. I would like to take the 2 questions I saw in the chat, so we can just then wrap up. If you can still hang around a little bit here with us. One is from George, I think in Miami. How can a creative arts company participate from the US? Are there any particular input from any of you?
Yeah, just like another company in another incentivized sector, you need to establish your company in Puerto Rico, register, and creative services, creative industries are covered under Act 60. So you can request a tax exemption decree. You can get the 4%, and that activity, depending on what you do, if you do film production, there's also tax credits for that. If you do other sorts of arts, then the 4% corporate tax rate, the exemption on construction taxes, municipal patents and licenses, all of that would apply. A lot of skilled creative talent on the island as well.
Perfect. Then the other one is about the silver economy or aging population. I think this is very important topic. Anything any of you would like to add there?
I get that one because we're working right now on a big transaction with our local private equity fund on that. So that silver tsunami is the same as in the US, right? A lot of baby boomers retiring. In Puerto Rico, particularly, just to give you a few facts, 800,000 people 65 plus. So it's a big community that needs those services, from healthcare services to accommodation. So we're working right now on a investment for a construction of a building for elderly accommodations for people that need a place to, obviously, that cannot necessarily be in their house, that need care and be living in a specific place. So I see a lot of potential in that sector. Combine that with incentives. There's also medical tourism incentives that we didn't cover, but it's still applied to Puerto Rico. So depending on I'm not looking at the person who asked the question, but depending on what you're looking for, definitely healthcare space is big here. We have aging population that is to be served in accommodation, healthcare, and we're betting on it. Also as a fund, we're investing into that. But certainly the needs are there. And again, when you combine that with let's say medical tourism incentives, for instance, it makes it very attractive from a business standpoint.
Excellent. Thank you, Braulio. I would like to wrap it up now because I know it's been more than an hour now. So thank you, Karen. Thank you, Marisel, Jaime, Braulio, and Joe. I think it's been an interesting conversation. We'll be sending the recording and a blog post on LinkedIn. So there's going to be some follow-up on this. And to anyone who's new, who has joined for the first time at Global Chamber events, I invite you to join, to check out our website, learn a little bit more about us. It's not really about the Caribbean only or Puerto Rico. It's really about the world, and we're doing events. We're having chapters all over the place. And for instance, I see Jen put tomorrow the event we have with Germany and the UAE. So it's a lot of things going on, and it's mostly about connections, how we were able to connect you with people from all over the place. So again, thank you. Then the plan here with Joe is to continue this Caribbean conversation. I know we have Belize and we have Trinidad in the pipeline, and I recently connected with Travis from Bahamas. So hopefully we can continue doing this at least at a quarterly pace. So thanks again. Have a good rest of your day and enjoy the rest of the week as well.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Cesar.
Thank you.
Gracias a todos. Chao.
Yes.